And so now we move on to the next role, which is the range physical, and not much can really be said in terms of their change other than one job in particular. And then of course adding on a new job, which is the dancer, into the mix, we will now have 3 actual range physical jobs to use, making it way more of a variety for us to choose from than just the 2, which I definitely enjoy having some choices for me to actually get a feel for all of the jobs and actually get an understanding and just a pretty good idea of which one I would like to use the most. But just the same as like all the other roles, there were certain role actions that have been removed from the kit as far as invigorate. But not only that, to add on to it, you got tactician, you got freaking refresh, and you even got arm graze and palisade. Yeah, but to rectify that, some of the changes that have been made, you got foot graze at an earlier level, you got freaking leg graze at an earlier level, freaking head graze no longer freaking silences target, but it freaking interacts the target's action. So at the very least, it's a form of stun and makes it to where you no longer have to worry about that in solo content. But for ranges, which is a nice change, you now have arm's length, so you no longer have to worry about pushback ability on pushback moves anymore. Thank your lucky damn stars, because good golly goodness, I swear that is just, it was really such a pain having to deal with that. I definitely must say. Anyway, other than that, we will now go into the actual job, starting with the Bard. And to start with the Bard, one of the changes that I'm pretty sure not many people are really fond of is the fact that Bard no longer gives out crit when it comes to their songs. Yeah, that utility is long gone because they had to give it to someone else. And so to facilitate that, to pretty much make that change make sense, they try to do other things to its utility to better facilitate the change that was brought about here. Even though I don't really think that it really did all that much, but yeah. Yeah, it's not like we really needed that at all. I mean, it was 2%. Come on, guys. That in and of itself was not really needed to be removed. Come on now. Anyway, like I was saying before, with how many of the attacks that activate whenever the health is at a certain percentage, Misery's End has been removed, which is understandable. However, Foe's Requiem as well as Warren's Paean has been removed as well. So for Tick for Tack, I can see why they did that, and I don't know how to truly feel about it. As far as the actual Bard mains are concerned, I'm pretty sure that they're feeling a bit off-putted or maybe indifferent. All depends. But as far as I'm concerned, overall damage is probably going to be mostly increased all around. So as far as Foe Requiem's removal is concerned, I guess the damage increase overall is going to make things smoother to where you don't have to really worry about it. So there's that to look forward to. So now, speaking of increases, like I was saying, increases all around. However, dot durations have actually gotten a significant increase as far as the Venomous Bite and Wind Bite now being on the same wavelength of that of Caustic Bite and Storm Bite, which I definitely love that change. It was definitely needed, and yeah, nothing much to really say on that other than the fact that thank you very, very, very much. And now as far as upgrades, you have freaking Heavy Shot, which in terms of the actual gameplay aspect of Bard, seeing as crit is not really much of a stature here, as I was saying before, Bards no longer have much of an RNG aspect to them. You more so like gain things due to the duration of your dots. You get them over time, similar to that of maybe how should I say, Thundercloud. Like you have that random chance of getting a repertoire by just the damage over time of these dots. And if you have one dot on a target, your chances are essentially 40%. So meaning that you'll be able to have 80% if you have both of them up, which is actually pretty negligible for what it is worth. I actually find this change to be more acceptable in comparison to having to really really depend on crit in order to really get much of your procs. So this change is definitely necessary and definitely acceptable. I can definitely agree to this change. Not only that, one other change that we have here is that Heavy Shot has, like, I guess this new thing with Straight Shot, where it's now called Straight Shot Ready, and it's pretty much around the whole entire thing with the dots and so on and so forth. And to add on to that, freaking Barrage actually grants Straight Shot Ready, meaning that not only that, you'll now be able to literally use this in order to immediately get refulgent arrows. So you no longer have to worry, guys, about the RNG in your opening rotations. So thank God for that. Thank you, freaking Yoshi P, for just making this change possible. This was such a necessary change. You can not even understand exactly how underwhelming, how off-putting it was, just having to miss the actual timing of your stuff in your rotation because of the overall dependence of RNG. And so going from there, we now have other things as far as like Heavy Shot Straight now being unlocked at an earlier level from like level 8 to like level 2, and then also having an upgrade at level 76 known as Burst Shot, which does a very potent damage, I might say. But to go back to some of the other changes of its abilities, like as far as its songs, Army's Paeon has gotten quite the change for the better. Because at level 78, depending on exactly how many stacks of repertoire attained while under its effects, the next song's cast and recast, as well as all that, etc., blah blah blah, will be reduced by up to 12% with up to 4 reps. This is actually an ability known as Army's Muse, if I remember correctly, or Army's Athos. So that is definitely something to look forward to. But just the overall change on Army's Paeon is just like, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It is now a song that people can actually use and not just use it in the back burner. As far as that, like the 40% chance to grant the repertoire with the when damage over time from the Caustic Bite and Storm Bite and whatnot is definitely a great change. But it's just like a reduced weapon skill cast time and whatnot. It's still there, but it's like the new trait that adds on to this ability is definitely something that was needed just to bring it out in the forefront. It's just sad that we won't be able to get this until we get to level 78. But to continue on from that, many other things have been done here with how, seeing as we got crit removed, the battle voice have actually gotten their direct hit rate increased to like 20%. Not only that, freaking Pitch Perfect now has gotten its potency increase, and it's unfortunate, but having to point out some nerfs that have been done or just some changes that are quite saddened. Imperial Arrow is now ability and no longer a weapon skill, meaning that Barrage will no longer work on said skill anymore. So apologies on that, guys. Not only that, its actual cooldown is now a 15-second cooldown. So that's definitely something to look forward to. Yeah. Anyway, so with this in mind, like I was saying before with the actual dots, Caustic Bite, Storm Bite, with its potency increases, it now has actually 35% chance of becoming Straight Shot Ready at around level 76. So it's like with both of these up, you now have essentially a 70% chance to actually get that Straight Shot Ready, if that math is correct. or if that's actually applied. So hopefully that is going to make the general feel of the bard so much better in comparison when it comes to just having to like literally use your straight shot plus or whatnot, or your straighter shot, I mean. And then various other things as far as Nature Mine having its cooldown increase, unfortunately, from 45 seconds to 90 seconds. I don't really know exactly how everyone else feels about it, but it's just like, that, of course, obviously is quite the nerf. But we'll see exactly how that goes when it comes to the actual raiding scene. But getting back to many of the new stuff that we have here, Shadow Bite, which is a new skill that we get at level 72, deals a pretty good amount of damage when you actually have both dots on one enemy, which will actually stack upon pretty much all of the enemies. So it's like you don't really need to worry about it doing just one potency for all other enemies when you have both potencies on one enemy. You can literally have both dots on one enemy in order for the potency increase to actually kick in, and it will still deal the same amount of potency to all other enemies. So it's like, that is an awesome thing for an AoE. I'm glad that they did that. Thank God. Finally, its actual new skill, which for some strange apparent reason, straight shot has just, like, I don't know, been completely removed somewhat. And we now have something else which is known as our soul voice gauge, and it has its single use of it being behind a skill known as Apex Arrow, which is actually an AoE skill, a line AoE skill for that matter, that deals quite amount of damage when you have up to 20 soul voice and dealing about 450. But not only that, this actually deals even more damage when you scale beyond 20 soul voice. So that's going to be very interesting, considering how you actually gain soul voice via by each rep that you gain with all of your songs. So it's like going through like all 3 songs is going to be very interesting to see exactly how much damage you're going to be racking up as a bard. So as far as overall changes with the bard, I get that the overall feeling is definitely going to be the same. It's definitely going to be the same. Not much has really changed of it other than its song not having any crit, and so that's just like something that's like passive. That's not really something that you truly feel in the long run. It doesn't change much of everything. But as far as the actual additions to it, that is these are pretty good additions to what it is worth in terms of it dealing damage. As far as overall utility or just support, like for instance Troubadour no longer has a varied effect. Now that I think about it, I completely forgot about that. It no longer has a varied effect dependent on the song. It now just reduces damage taken by self and nearby party members for like 15 seconds. So, yeah. And, I mean, it's 2 minutes, 15 seconds for 10%. Hey, reducing damage. It's definitely helping out for the healer, so it's like that utility definitely works. But as far as many other utilities, I mean, you still have your battle voice, and I guess that's just about it, and so on and so forth. So it's like its support has kind of dwindled a bit. I really hope that they actually bring back the song bit with the crits, just to make it so that they still have that sort of shtick with them actually giving out support. Because it's like the 2% is very negligible for what it is worth. There are so many other jobs that are giving like crit more so in comparison to Bard. I mean, you have Dragoons, you have Astrologian, you have Scholars, so it's not really something that I really find to be actually necessary for you to remove the 2% crit that you get from literally a Bard. Other than that, all around, the changes or pretty much the additions are pretty nice. Now, looking into one that has the greatest amount of change that I've been waiting to talk about is, of course, the Dancer. Let's get to it. So with this job, the Machinist, this is literally a new job. Guys, they actually gave us a new job. We didn't actually get just 2 jobs. We actually got 3 new jobs. They just didn't want to tell us. Because the Machinists, thank God, they did every single thing that I wanted them to do in order to literally make them feel way more refreshing. And I feel like they're going to be way more refreshing in the long run. Because good God, golly goodness, what in the world even is this job anymore? We're actually a freaking machinist. We actually deal with machines now. It's amazing because we literally just summoned freaking Bob. We just literally told Bob to fucking do something. We're summoning a fucking robot. Are you serious? Not only that, so many things that we're seeing here being pulled from literally Alexander is a very nice aspect here when it comes to the machinist in order to look into many of its actions and within its toolkit. So it's like I enjoyed the change that they made here. So let's go ahead and get into talking about it. As I was saying before, greatest amount of change possibly throughout every job. Like, this job, it had the greatest amount of changes in comparison to all jobs, no matter who says. So to first look into the skills that have been removed or consolidated, we're going to first talk about the gauge, friggin' ammo, and heat. Ammo has been completely removed. Thank you. Because the whole entire like proc based rotation was just that was the very thing that made that job very clunky. I just could not get into this job whatsoever. I really couldn't. It really couldn't be done, guys. I just could not enjoy the job no matter how much I tried when it came to the proc based nonsense. And then of course with the heat gauge was even worse, which is how you had to put on the Gauss barrel in order to even freaking deal your extra damage. You no longer need to worry about that now because you're not going to be having the Gauss barrel anymore. It's been removed. It's amazing. I like it. It's definitely a very nice change. Freaking quality of life change. The greatest quality of life change, mind you. And I just can't wait to freaking get my hands to really get a feel for it. So getting into a great majority of things here, you have Tactician, which is the role action that has been removed, but it's actually been consolidated, and it's similar to that of Troubadour. You unfortunately cannot use this on top of Troubadour because they are similar in aspect. So that's one of the reasons why. So yes, Tactician has been relegated within the Machinist's toolkit, which makes sense. Tactician, and as far as namesake or just the definition of it, is definitely something that works for the Machinist in terms of the aspect behind this job. But getting back into things, freaking the heat gauge now just accumulates over time as you're like dealing damage and so on and so forth with a good majority of your skills. But looking at some of the things that are removed as far as Heartbreak, which is typical, as I pointed out, Blank, which I'm not really surprised, Rapid Fire, which I'm honestly surprised, Rook Retrieval, which is actually something I'm going to be getting into in a second, Bishop, Auto Turret, Gauss Barrel, and Dismantle have all been removed. So I apologize, Fairy Mary, about the fact that you no longer get the chance to throw a wrench anymore, as well as you, Phoenix. So there's that. So other than that, DPS increases all around. Not really going to talk about it. Resemble, however, no longer gives crit to just the first enemy in AoE situations. So you now get to be able to literally have a guaranteed crit for literally any AoE move that you do for just that one move. It's amazing. Like it's amazing. Though I don't really know whether or not if it's only just for that one move, because you can actually freaking use it for 5 seconds. So it's like I don't know whether or not if you can like within that 5-second window be able to do like at least 2 abilities that would be able to deal crit. But it is what it is. I know it was never like that for what it is right now. Even though it was 20 seconds, it's definitely something that you use more so to prepare for that actual skill. So there's that. Hotshot has gotten a significant change where it's no longer much of like an increased physical damage dealt of 10%. It's more so just something that increases your battery gauge. So it's like it's essentially a cooldown, but it's a skill, it's a weapon skill that more so has its own recast timer, and it also shares that recast timer with something else, which is known as Air Anchor. Which, holy crap, this skill is ridiculous because we are So it's like I guess they took a look at Final Fantasy 15 and was like, I think we can do that. And it's probably also the fact that Ezekiel, or the Warrior of Light, and probably Sid himself was just like, so I took a look at some of your weapons and I was pretty interested on exactly what that gun mechanism that you have is. Like, what is that by any chance? And freaking Noctis was just like, oh, well, it's just something that I actually use along with my friend Prompto. He uses it quite a lot in comparison to me, though. But it's definitely a potent weapon for you to use. So it's like, I mean, if you want to like take it, you can actually study it and whatnot. And it's just went to town and freaking gave it to us. Because that's what Air Anchor is, guys. It's a freaking new weapon skill that we get that shares a recast time with Hotshot. And we get it at level 76. And freaking deals freaking damage of 400. While it's increasing the battery gauge at the same time. Wonder what is going on here. But, yeah. Other than that, some of the other changes that we have as far as like Wildfire now actually having a potency instead of an actual percentage build up, it now does an extra 150 with the number of weapon skills that you do under its effect. So that's something to really look forward to. Not only that, it also has a detonator that can actually end the Wildfire effect, so you can actually control it now, which is a great change in and of itself. And so getting into the actual auto turns are something that of like a passive buff of sorts. It's not actually something that you throw out onto the field anymore, which I am very thankful for. I really wasn't really all that fond of the whole entire deployment nonsense. I don't really know whether or not if that's truly true, but it's like I haven't really seen any videos that really show Machinist literally throwing out a turn anymore on the field. So we'll see whether or not if that's the case. That's what I'm taking it as, but I'm not 100% sure. Other than that, as far as what the auto turn does now, it increases the remaining battery gauge at time of deployment up to 15 seconds instead of 10 seconds. And this no longer increases the target's damage taken by 5%. So that's also something to look forward to in terms of a nerf, I guess, if you want to call it a nerf in the long run. I guess it is. I guess it isn't. I really wouldn't be able to tell because I don't play Machinist all that much. As far as some of the other changes that it has, as far as Gauss Round now being unlocked at level 15, which is very interesting. We're getting so many skills, which is definitely a nice thing that I love. The fact that we're getting new skills or pre-existing skills at earlier levels is something that I'm enjoying very much, because it makes the job more reinvigorating when it comes to like having to play them at earlier levels. Because so many times I would just be like, I really wish that I had some of my skills at later levels in these levels, because it's like, this is just so boring. But here we are in Shadowbringers, and being able to freaking pull these abilities to all hell. But other than that, as far as that is concerned, one thing about it though is that it had its cooldown increased to 30 seconds instead of 15, and then of course it got a significant freaking DPS potency decrease. But one thing to facilitate this is that you actually get a charge of a maximum of 3. So you get to use this 3 times, even though it's at level 74. But still, 3 charges. The same thing is actually said with Ricochet, which has gone through the same literal change. However, it actually has been, it now unlocks at level 50 instead of level 60, which I love, because that skill is pretty amazing for what it is worth, and I very much like the effect of it. But it's like, it's the same for that just as much as Gauss Round is. The cooldown has been literally, actually no, it's not the cooldown, it's more so like the damage has been reduced, while as the cooldown, however, has been reduced to 30 seconds. So it's like you're able to choose whichever one that you want to use, even though you can pretty much use whichever one you want, just deal whatever damage that you want there, and just go about doing it that way. I do believe these actually share a recast timer, but I'm not 100% sure about that. It may not be the case, and if it's not, then good. If it is, then damn. So that's the answer to that question. And either way, I'm going to figure it out soon enough. So another change that we can actually talk about here is how Hypercharge now unlocks at a very early level of level 30 instead of level 58. But there's a reason for that, due to the fact that it no longer overcharges the auto turret, because just like I was saying before, I don't think we even have an auto turret anymore. Instead, what it does is that it is the very thing that causes our weapon to overheat, and it does it for 8 seconds, and it costs about like 50 of the heat gauge. This is exactly where your actual ability to like overheat your weapon comes into play, where we were able to overheat our weapon with the Gauss barrel by accumulating our heat gauge, and when we actually got to 100%, it would then go into an actual heat gauge timer where our weapon is overheated, and within that actual window we will be able to do our all-out like extra damage and all that other shit in order to dish out just all the not nice damage, but at the very least the nice damage. The only problem is that it literally removes the Gauss barrel for a couple of seconds, practically reducing your DPS. And that was one of the things that I just felt that was just so damn clunky. It made no sense to me whatsoever. So yeah, that is a pretty great change for what it is worth. This will be our actual option, our actual ability that causes our weapon to overheat, where we can actually have that increased damage. So that is definitely a very nice change. But one thing to say about that is that it's not something that actually increases our damage per se. It more so grants us the ability to use other skills, which is something that we already have in our toolkit, as long as something that is new in our toolkit. And those goes as follows. We have cooldown, which is now known as Heat Blast. It has been moved to level 35, another skill that has pretty much been relegated to an earlier level instead of the later levels, which I very much love. This thing deals a potency of 220, and it also reduces the recast time of Gauss round, and I'm just like, okay, I see you now, Square. It doesn't just do it to that, but it also does it to freaking Ricochet. So yeah, and to make it even more apparent, they actually reduced it to 15 seconds. So it's like, you see how that works? You see how that works? How the stars align? You see how they did that with how they increased the cooldown of Gauss round, but made it to where cooldown will reduce the actual recast time of these abilities? Yeah, I see what they did there. But as I was saying before, this as well as auto crossbow, which is our new skill that we get at level 52 and does an AoE damage of 150, both of these can only be used when our weapon is overheated. So that's something to definitely look forward to. Considering how we get these abilities, we'll most likely be able to use these for a great number of times, considering how it's under the heat gauge, and with freaking hotshot and various other things that I'll be adding onto our heat gauge, we're going to be able to use this quite a lot. I'm definitely sure. And so now, looking into many of the other skills that have been changed, I mean, you have freaking heated split shot, slud shot, and clean shot, which no longer are like a part of the same level anymore. You actually unlock them in different respective levels of 54, 60, and 64, instead of all of them being unlocked at level 64. And honestly, I think that in and of itself is kind of strange. I don't really know why in the world they did that, but we'll see exactly where that goes. Continuing on, Rook Overdrive as well as Rook Overload now unlocks at level 40 instead of level 68. So it's just like, we now are able to deal a freaking damage of 800 at a pretty early state. So it's just like, I don't know exactly how to really wrap my head around that. That's definitely something we're definitely gonna have to look forward to and see exactly how that's gonna pan out. Cause yeah, level 40. Okay. Continuing on, we now get into our newer skills, like for instance drill. But even though it's a new skill, we actually get this at a pretty early level of level 58, And this is a single target that deals about 400 damage, and it increases the freaking battery gauge, guys. We're going to be seeing this way too much. Not only that, it has a cooldown that is pretty strange of about 19.30 seconds instead of just being 20 seconds. Sure enough, I'm not really complaining, but it's like it's kind of strange. But what's even stranger is the fact that we're literally using fucking we're using an Alexander skill, and I just like, oh my god, how much more are we gonna be like taking abilities from other people or other things for that matter? Then going from there, this ability actually shares a recast time for Bioblaster, which is also a new ability that we get at level 72, and it's an AoE dot ability that we finally get that deals a potency of 50, but also has a dot potency of 60 for 15 seconds. So yeah, I really gotta say these additions are very nice. They are very, very nice. I'm really gonna have to say I'm really enjoying the changes so far, because we're not even done. The last but not least, the coup de grace of all coup de grace, freaking Automaton Queen, the freaking Bob Do Something, is here. Yes, a new ability that we unlock at level 80. Like, this thing is pretty much similar to that of Frey, where it pretty much does what it wants to do, as far as it doing its arm punch was dealing a potency of 150, or it doing freaking a potency of 300 with his roller dash, with a recast time of 2.89 seconds, which is essentially a weapon skill, and then freaking 800 for the pile bunker, which also gets a potency increase with the remaining battery gauge at the time of deployment. And it's just like, what? We're actually freaking engineers. We're actually machinists, guys. And it looks like I'm actually gonna be having fun with this job, because I can't wait to have it in my hands and actually be able to use my favorite gun. I literally spent the time trying to freaking get wolf marks to even get the damn weapon. So that's something that I'm definitely going to be looking forward to. Just know, like, I really cannot find myself but to be happy about what in the world this job is going to be like once Shadowbringers comes out. And so now we finally get to the second and last new job that is going to be added within Shadowbringers. We are looking at the oh so beautiful Dancer. Okay. So I did not know what to expect or what I was going to be getting myself into when the Dancer was going to be a thing. And like, so many people have been looking forward to this job for the longest of times. And good God, golly goodness, what the hell even is this job? Like, no. What in the world is this job? Okay, so it's like, it's looked like they tried to combine Bard and Machinist, where it's like you have the proc-based combos going in, but it's like you don't have ammunition in order to do anything in order to bring those procs. It's just something that literally has a chance, similar to that of the Bard, where you have a chance to actually proc this ability to go into this ability to go into this ability. That's essentially Dancer throughout the entirety of its freaking toolkit. You have Cascade, an ability that freaking goes into a chance of granting Flourishing Cascade, which then goes into freaking Reverse Cascade, and then Reverse Cascade goes into another ability, and then freaking you have Fountain that goes into this ability that goes into this ability, and then that's not even just it. The AoEs do the same thing. You have Windmill that goes into this ability once you use it, and then it goes into this ability when you use it. Oh man, like, I just cannot for the life of me understand what in the world I'm looking at here. You have Windmill that goes into Blade Shower, then goes into freaking Blood Shower. It's just like, what? what in the world is this job? So again, going down the line, you have Cascade that essentially goes into reverse Cascade, and then freaking Fountain goes into Fountain Fall, and then you have like multiple different abilities of Fan Dance, which is 3, and those go into various other things where you have a single target variant of it, and then you have 2 AoEs that is just like, how in the world am I supposed to even process this job? I don't even know how to process this job. Windmill goes into Blade Shower, then goes into freaking Rising Windmill. What am I dealing with here? You get 50% chances of doing all of this stuff, and just what? Oh my god. So to recap on just the abilities one more time, I really just want to stress this enough. The way on how this job is going to play is that you go from 1 to 2 to 1 to 2 or 3 to 1 to 2 or 3 to 4 to 1 to 2 3 4 or 1 3 4 or 1 2 4, or just like, what in the world is this? What is this? What even is this? Oh man. And then one of its staple abilities, which is essentially its steps, its actual dancing skills. You have 2 steps here, which is essentially the standard step and the technical step. Now, I didn't point this out yet, but for a support job that is definitely purely support, why is it that it does almost as much damage of a samurai, if not that, way more damage than that of a freaking ninja, bard, and most likely machinist altogether? Because these steps, even though they are literally like 30 seconds to a 2-minute long freaking cooldown, you're able to freaking do 1,000 or 1,500 potency in respectively every freaking literal half-minute and 2 minutes. Why? This DPS is crazy. And even though I said that I wasn't gonna be talking about freaking like skills like these with the potencies and whatnot, but it's just I look at this and every 2 minutes is just like, you're doing so much damage, and it's an AoE on top of that with no fall off. Actually, no. Correction. It does have fall off. 75% fall off, to say. So that's fair. That is fair. This is absolutely fair. This is understandable, but it's still crazy on exactly how much damage that first enemy is going to be getting in the long run. I'm just going to point this out right now. It's crazy. Because you're mostly going to be freaking seeing that damage when you're freaking doing it in raids. And I just can't even freaking bother. Dancer has essentially already freaking stolen the top spot when it ever comes to the actual support. And I don't think Square understands that when they were trying to make it to where there would not be one job that literally overtakes other jobs in making jobs more viable across the board, they made Dancer literally the opposite of that. Because it's most certainly going to be one of the top jobs that's most certainly going to be asked for in these tiers. But we're just going to look for, we're going to see exactly where that goes. We're going to see where that goes. Other than that, as far as this other abilities, it has freaking how many AoE abilities in its kit? I think it has the most AoE abilities out of any job in the game. It has about 9. I do believe I counted. With just including not only the freaking standard finish and technical finish. And then, not only that, it even has an AoE healing ability of Curing Wall. So that's 60 seconds on cooldown. Dealing a freaking cure potency of 200. What even is this job? Oh, and then one of its actual typical abilities that it has is essentially closed position. This is something of essentially a dragon sight or a brotherhood, where every 30 seconds you'll be able to put this on one of your partners where it needs to be a DPS, I do believe. You'll be able to put this on your actual dance partner, and any of the effects of the actual standard finish, the freaking technical finish, I do believe, as well as saber dance and curing waltz, will actually be added or shared to that dance partner. On top of that, you'll also be getting a freaking critical hit rate and direct hit rate increase because of the saber dance. What? Even though that is literally freaking 2 minutes, still, what am I looking at here? Just what am I looking at here, guys? I don't understand. And then you have like the new abilities, even though all of its abilities are new. It's just like the 70 to 80 abilities that it has, where you have Flourish, which grants you the effect of Flurrying Cascade, all of your flourishing abilities, which is pretty much a free chance of you being able to do whatever the hell you want with some of your skills. And then on top of that, you even have Devilment, which is essentially an ability that's on your Esprit gauge. You have like multiple gauges that do pretty much many different things here, where you have your step gauge that shows you all of your steps, where you have to do each of these buttons in a particular pattern when you actually activate your step, and they change each time that you actually freaking activate it. For the standard step you have 2, and then for technical step you have 4, and they actually fall under the actual moves Cascade, Fountain, Reverse Cascade, as well as Fountain Fall. So it's like you have those to look forward to in order for you to actually optimize the say job, while as you have various things going on in terms of movement, and then of course DPS, because it's like you have to add that on top of actually bringing out the support ability of the dancer. So it's like you're gonna be very busy, and it looks fun for what it is worth on how busy you're going to be. No joke. But getting back to the actual Esprit gauge, you actually accumulate, the Esprit gauge accumulates when you actually have your dance partner with you. But not only that, it's more so about the fact of your party members being under the effect of like the standard and technical finishes. So it's like whenever they land a weapon skill or a magic attack, it will essentially accumulate when you do that. And you will be able to use Devilment in order to deal a freaking ton amount of damage in an AoE, actually, now that I think about it. Like I was saying, it has so many freaking AoEs, and it's like a ridiculous amount of it with a ridiculous amount of potencies. This one being about 600 with freaking 50% fall off. So, guys, again, what even is this job? I don't understand. And then last but not least, its ability known as improvisation. It's actually something that increases the Esprit gauge as you are doing things like far as phase transitions, because if you move when using this, you will no longer be within its effect. It's actually a 15-second duration under a 180-second cooldown. So it's like you're able to increase your Esprit gauge similar to that of like Anatma or freaking meditation. But if you move, especially like turning around or using an action or anything of that nature, it ends literally upon doing that. So you got to make sure that you don't do anything around that time. And as far as movement is concerned, like it actually has quite a considerable amount of movement ability. On top of the fact that it's just able to move freely as much as it wants, especially when you're doing dancing, which is nice, because here I was thinking it was going to be something similar to that of like Tenchi Jin, where you literally just cannot move when you are initiating your actual standard or technical steps, and that's not the case here, and I'm happy for that. Thank you. Now, other than that, we have something else that's a little bit different than sort of the gap closers. It's actually a more passive ability that you're able to use to go around by quickly dashing into whatever direction that you want to using en avant. This actually has a charge of about 3, so it's even greater than that of some of the actual gap closers. It's just that with you being able to freaking use it 3 times, you're going to be able to move around just fine. there's definitely no worry. And you get this at level 50, so this is something that you'll immediately have in your toolkit the second you pick up the job. So there's nothing to worry about that. All in all, this job looks so much fun, and it's making me actually think about playing it more so than freaking Bard, which has been the job that I've played the most in comparison to that of either that or the Machinist, which was obvious that I was not playing the Machinist all that much. Yeah, definitely something to look forward to. I definitely going to find myself playing it on my ults more so than Ezekiel, but for what it is worth, I can't wait to get this job in my hands. It is a very, very beautiful looking job. In terms of its effects, it probably has the most beautiful effects in terms of just aesthetics. And so yeah, with that in mind, we are now done with the actual range physical, and now we are going to be going ahead and get into the actual casters. And so with this, the casters, not much to really say in terms of change, other than the fact that they got rid of a good chunk of their skills. They now only have about 4, which is essentially Addle, which has been left unchanged, Swift Cast, Lucid Dream, and Ensure Cast undergoing the same change to that of the healers. So meaning that Break, Drain, Diversion, Mana Shift, Apostasis, and as well as Erase have all been removed. And honestly, I'm not really surprised. I'm honestly glad these are removed, and it's going to be opening up a good chunk of my my actual controller, because good God, some of those hotbars were filling up and I was kind of sweating a bit to really like figure out exactly how and what I'm going to be changing things here and there on my freaking my hotbars. But other than that, yeah, not really much change. Only just quality of life changes to all of the casters. And oh boy, when we get to the first job here. Let's go ahead and get into the Black Mage. So, talking about the Black Mage. Black Mages have gotten the greatest changes of all time, because, oh man, my Black Mage heart has just been feeling on cloud 9. It is literally just an amazing amount of changes that they have done to my Black Mage. And just getting into it, first and foremost, we just gotta talk about how just how, like, not much has the Black Mage's kit have been removed, because it's just like it was a perfect job. It was literally a perfect job for what it was worth in Stormblood, and now they made it even more perfect on top of that, with how Astral Fire and Umbral Ice stacks duration have been extended to 15 seconds instead of 13 seconds, making that actual time window whenever it comes to the actual fouls, as well as various other things with the Thundercloud procs and so on and so forth, and keeping up uptime. It's just, oh, so amazing. Oh man, I'm gonna be having such a fun time with this job. And let me just say, not to mention with Transpose having its freaking recast timer reduced to 5 seconds. Oh man, nice changes all around. And speaking of change, can we talk about how freeze is finally a skill that we can finally use? Well, freeze is finally a spell that now not only deals damage, but also freaking gives us our Umbral Heart stacks, making it so that we can finally use it in AoE rotations, instead of having to just use Blizzard 4. So now, it's no longer a question of whether or not if I should use Freeze or Blizzard 4. you can now gain your actual stacks and deal damage in your rotation and then switch to your fire. Simple as that, my friends. Simple as that. But not only that, they also made it to where freeze is no longer an actual designated area ability. It's an actual target ability. You can target enemies and literally just freaking cast this spell on the fly, no problems at all. We are out here. AoEs are here. We got more AoEs now, guys. We out here dishing damage. Freaking Ice Mage is no longer a meme. We out here being a true black mage with our actual freaking AoE for the Umbral Ice side of things. Nothing is now a meme anymore. Nothing is now a meme anymore with the black mages now. We are full on freaking explosions. Speaking of explosions, as far as new skills are concerned, like I was pointing out before, where various abilities have gotten single targets from off of their AoEs and AoEs from off of their single targets, Black Mage has gotten 2 of these. They've gotten 1 of each, which I'll be getting in soon because it's so freaking amazing. Holy crap, holy crap, holy crap. But before that, getting into some of the other abilities as far as like Blizzard 2 no longer giving blind. I don't even know why in the world we still have it, but I guess we need to have something for early levels when it comes to AoE rotations, but it's just like, okay. Greatest change here, Mono Ward has now been renamed to Mono Font and then no longer freaking has us sacrificing our health. Hallelujah. I appreciate this change so much. Thank you. Never do this again for any other job. And let's continue on. Getting back to the fact that Flare is back, with it no longer having varied fall off anymore. It literally, my guys, my boys and girls, my fellow black mages, sisters and brothers, we are now able to freaking dish some damage with the flares, with it now having a fall off of 40% instead of varied damages. Oh man, it is just so good with the the nice damage. Oh good golly goodness, this is just it's amazing. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And then continuing off of that, we have Despair, a new single target variant of Flare that does a damage of 380. 380, my guys. And to go off of that, to transition from that, we actually have a trait that makes it possible for us to cast literally either our Fire 3 or our Blizzard 3 upon us having no MP. So that means after using either Despair or Flare, we can immediately go into our Umbral Ice stacks if we have 3 stacks of Astral Fire. As long as we have 3 stacks, we no longer have to worry about switching to our different stacks. We can switch on the fly with no MP, guys. We are here. It is done. Quality of life changes all around. It is amazing. It is an amazing feeling all around, guys. My black mage has gotten the love. Oh, it's such an amazing feeling. It's just such an amazing feeling, guys. And an even more amazing feeling is the amount of damage it's able to deal because of... Sharpcast Recast has literally been lowered to 30 seconds at level 74. Freaking Anokian has its damage increase at level 76 to 15%. Freaking Blizzard 4, for some ungodly strange reason, now is the same potency as Fire 4. What exactly is this job now? I don't even know, because to add on to all of this nonsense, to add on top of the fact that we have the switching trait, we got a new ability called Umbral Soul, which is quite possibly the greatest ability that you could ever give a job ever when it comes to regaining stacks. Umbral Soul is a new ability that we unlock at level 76 that grants Umbral Ice and Umbral Arts on the fly under freaking Enochian. No longer will we need to use transpose. My fellow black mage brothers and sisters, we are out here freaking going through dungeons, through raids, through savages, my brothers and sisters, without the need of worrying about any of this nonsense. We can walk around as much as we want to. I'm just gonna freaking go into my Umbral Ice stacks, freaking use Umbral Soul real quick, get me my stacks, freaking go back into my Astral Fire, just freaking do me. I'm just gonna freaking do me. It's so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. And to finish things off on this, getting back to the whole entire despair, we got the coup de grace of all coup de grace with black mages getting freaking 2 polyglots now. We no longer doing 1, guys. We're doing 2. Every minute we're able to freaking do 2 fouls. And not only that, we're even able to do a single target foul, which is known as Xenoglossy, dealing a single target potency of 750. Oh, and it's instant cast. I don't even know this job anymore. I don't know this job, guys. This job is lost to me. I don't know this job because it's able to deal freaking literally 1,500 potency every freaking minute. Every minute. I'm speechless. I am absolutely speechless. I don't know what I'm going to do now because it's looking like I'm gonna be going back to being my full black mage main, because this job, I'm sorry, this job is sounding so much fun. It looks so much fun and sounds so much fun at the same time. It's the job that I started with when I started this game, and it's the job that I'm most likely going to be returning to. Because good golly goodness, guys, black mage is fucking OP as shit in terms of damage. It is the greatest DPS of all time from just this. And sure enough, I should not be literally believing the potencies now, but again, just for right now, let's just take all of this in. And so now we move on to the summoner. We now continue on with the summoner. With the summoners finally actually being summoners, we have now fully mastered the true art of summoning. It is here. It is finally here, guys, where we will finally be able to switch between all of our Eggies on the fly, which each of them having their own form of abilities, with essentially Garuda being our AoE, our Ifrit being our actually full-on DPS, our single target DPS with a couple of actual AoE abilities, and then our tank sort of being a median of that, but giving us actual utility in terms of damage reduction. And as far as that, getting into many of the other changes as far as its removal of certain skills, like for instance sustain, rouse, tribind, and unfortunately shadow flare, like I said with Scholar. Yes, and especially Aetherflow, because Aetherflow has actually been completely removed from the actual tooltip. Well, not actually the tooltip, but more so just the kit. It's now an actual trait where it comes as a passive ability coming from actual skills and not from just pressing the button. So yeah, that's definitely interesting. And also Tribind is actually turned into something else known as Outburst, because it no longer binds anymore. It just does damage. So that's neat. But it's even though we have some of these changes, there's still a lot to look forward to here. Summoner still has a lot of ways that we can go through to actually bring out these skills, with how some of them have been consolidated, as I was pointing out before. And then of course there's the factor that one thing that's interesting is that we now apparently have Ruination applied to our dots all around, which is kind of one of the reasons why the dots have actually gone through a potency decrease, which is strange. But yeah, For what it is worth, I guess it's interesting considering how the duration of the dots have been increased. So I guess that's their way of facilitating that change. But yeah, apparently when we have the dots on a said target, whenever we use abilities such as Outburst, Ruin, or Ruin 2, or Ruin 3, and Ruin 4, we're able to have an actual damage increase due to those dots. So yeah, that's something that's definitely interesting in the long run for what it is worth with how they're able to deal damage, and how Ruin is going to be having another play-by-play here with their actual gameplay. Now, as far as the whole entire Aetherflow shtick, Aetherflow now falls under two abilities known as the Energy Drain, which we still have, which now unlocks at level 10 instead of level 6. And of course, its potency has been reduced because of the fact that it now generates Aetherflow. This also shares a recast time with a new skill known as Energy Siphon, which is the AoE equivalent of Energy Drain. And this one is earned at level 35 and does a less amount of damage, but it's like its cooldown is pretty significant for what it is worth, it being 30 seconds. So it's like that's pretty fair. Continuing on to some of the other changes where we have like Resurrection at an earlier level, Bane now spreads Bio, Miasma, and Ruination, which is the greatest possible change that you could ever do to that, but it's unfortunate that we cannot get that change until we get to level 78. Not only that, the majority of the Aetherflow abilities no longer grant Aether Trail Atonement, because they actually changed the whole entire summoning of Bahamut, as Bahamut, well, not the summoning of Bahamut, more so just using Dreadword Trance as a whole, where we can now just go into it as a cooldown instead of it being more of a focus onto the gauge. And so that is their way of being able to actually facilitate the need of Aether Trail Atonement because of the removal of said Aetherflow. And for some reason I keep on saying removal, but really I mean consolidate it into something else, because now we have only 2 instead of 3. But yeah, that's neither here nor there considering how the ways on how we'll be able to generate it now. It's definitely different. It is definitely different. Just like how Fester is a bit different, where it adds actually a lot more damage in comparison to what it does now, which is good. And like I was saying, Tribind, which was renamed as Outburst, actually deals a flat potency of 70 now, and no longer actually has that sort of increase from the Dreadworm chain. And of course, it no longer binds. So there you go. And then there's actually been some potency decreases here and there as far as AoE situations are concerned. Like for instance, Pain Flare has unfortunately gotten a damage decrease. But at the very least, Dreadworm Trance and Death Flare have gotten significant change, where Dreadworm Trance no longer increases magic damage dealt by 10%. Instead, it reduces overall spell cast time by 2.5 seconds, which is pretty much typical, something that we already know of. But however, it literally adds 2 units at level 72. So it's like when you get to that point, you'll be able to practically instantly call upon Bahamut after practically 1 use. And then with Death Flare, it no longer has varied fall off, and now only has 50% fall off. So it's like more damage, more power to it. And especially with more power to it, Aether Pack's cooldown been increased to 180 seconds. It now increases damage dealt by about 5% for all party members for about 15 seconds. So it's just like you get a little bit more bang for your buck, kind of, sort of, not really, but hey, it is what it is. Moving along from that, as far as the other potency increases, as far as the Bio 3 and Miasma 3 nonsense, that hasn't really been increased. It's more so like it's been reduced, sadly. But Ruin 4, back to that, that's been increased. However, I'm not really a fond of the fact that for some reason when you have both dots on, it doesn't double the amount, which doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're going to make it 250 for pretty much either effect and then make it 300 for both. Why? Square, please don't do this again. Don't do this treatment similar to that of Fester. Make it literally double. Make it like 500. Come on now, you can do better than this. Now, as far as Aquamorn has actually gotten similar changes with Death Flare, so the only thing is that it does more damage in comparison, so that's definitely something to be thankful for. And then getting into the actual new stuff with us being able to freaking summon Phoenix. Oh man, it's definitely interesting how we're literally summoning freaking Louis Swab, but I can only wonder exactly what in the world we'll be summoning next, right after this, in the next 2 years. But continuing on from that, we get this at level 80, similar to that of Dreadworm, only that it replaces Ruin 3 with Fountain of Fire and Outburst with Brand of Purgatory, which these two abilities, in and of itself, Brand of Purgatory deals an AoE potency of 300 with about 50% fall off, and Fountain of Fire deals an actual single target potency of 250, and this actually grants a Burgeoning Flame. As far as many of its other abilities, like upon actually summoning, it restores HP to all party members with a potency of 20 for 20 seconds, so it's like a regen as well as a heal. And then not only that, we have the final ability for Phoenix, which is obviously Revelation. A new AoE ability that deals a damage of 680, pretty much similar to that of Aquamorn. The only thing is that this one has the varied fall off, which was very typical. So all in all, with the changes that they made to Summoner, I really gotta say, Summoner is pretty fun in every regard now, and I feel like this change is making it even more fun for what it is worth, because of the fact that you're able to switch on the fly without having the need to wait for any like cast times on summoning the other Eggies and so on and so forth. You could just literally go on the fly with it. And then of course with the Eggy Assaults, literally adding onto the fact that like all of the skills of the Eggies are literally built within those Eggy Assaults. Eggy Assault 1, Eggy Assault 2, and depending on which one you use will depend on whatever ability that the Eggy uses. And I just find this, as well as weaving in all of your skills to like just flow within a pattern, the stars align just like completely with just every single thing going on here. Like, it's really not hard to grasp. And I finally think that this is going to make things a little bit easier for many of the new summoners out there that would like to try Summoner out, because good lord, yeah, it can be pretty complex, but honestly, it's a pretty easy job when you pick it up. It really is. And now we move on to the Red Mage, the final job on the list and the final job within this video. So yes, the Red Mage have actually gotten a pretty nice change for what it is worth in terms of the AoE department, and then of course certain things on top of that adds some quality of life changes, something new to add on to the mix. But it's like it's not exactly a new and improved type of change in comparison to like Machinist, because well it's still a relatively new job, so that's to be expected. So I'm not really going to get too much into the changes here. There's not really much being like done here other than the fact that Tether no longer exists within its actual kit. So that's great. Other than that, additional changes and various things made here overall, with like how Scatter now unlocks at level 16 instead of 18, as well as his potency increase being no longer granted from the enhanced Scatter. It's just now a flat freaking increase, so that's nice, but I'm still not interested in being able to spam it like multiple times through early levels. So it's a good thing that we actually get two new abilities at level 18, which is Ver Thunder AoE and Ver Arrow AoE. Ver Arrow being unlocked at level 22 if I remember correctly, and these are great follow-ups. And I'm thankful for the fact that we finally have more AoEs. They even went so far as to make Impact a new AoE that upgrades from Scatter at a certain level, and its damage potency, of course, had to be reduced due to the fact that it was made in AoE. Going on to other certain skills like the Displacement's potency being increased via by a new trait, but not only that, there's even a lower variant of this skill known as Engagement that unlocks at level 72 that has a cooldown of 35. It essentially shares the same cooldown with Displacement, only just that it has a much lower range in comparison to that of Displacement. So that's something for all you red mages that seem to keep on falling off of the damn area and dying like a freaking dragoon. So with this, you have no excuse to be dying anymore. To continue on from that, other skills like as far as Contra 6 no longer having varied fall off, it's now just 50% fall off flat. And then of course Modification now having a reduced recast time of 110 seconds, and then also increasing your magic damage by 5% at level 74 via by a trait. And then of course we have many other things as far as Jolt 2 having a potent increase. It no longer grants impactful anymore because, well, it's an AoE now. And then as far as its new skills, we have skills such as Reprise, which is an actual new range physical attack that essentially balances the balance gauge per se. Like for instance, if you have too much of the balance gauge, you're able to use that, fling that out there real quick in order to get that small little damage, and then you can go in for the kill, freaking go out, and then freaking finish it up with all of your new skills, like for instance Scorch, which is a new spell that unlocks at level 80 and deals a potency of 700. They essentially decided that they wanted to go ahead and take our foul from Black Mage because of the fact that they're red mages and they're like literally scum, wanting to freaking steal our practice and shit. But no, I'm just kidding. Other than that, yes, they essentially made their own form of foul because it's just like, why not? And this is a combo action that follows Vafter. Yes, I literally just said Vrafter for Flare and Verholy, as it changes from Jolt 2. And then not to mention, overall, all around, Contra 6's recast time has actually been reduced to 35 seconds from 45 seconds via by a new trait that you earn at level 78. Not only does that happen, but it also increases the damage potency of Ver Arrow AoE and Ver Thunder AoE at the same time. So all in all, these are pretty good changes for what it's worth. I was kind of hoping that with Ver Flare, the one thing that I asked for Red Mage is that if they could possibly change Ver Flare to be a level 60 spell instead of a level 68 spell, it would be very nice, and it would actually like make the job way more enjoyable when it comes to like being level synced down to that level, and then of course leveling up when you try to get to level 70. It really is not all that fun at earlier levels because it's like you're literally doing the same thing. Sure enough, it may be the same thing when it comes to Black Mage, but it's just like the repetitiveness of it all with the job where you going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, go in, flip, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Yes. It would have really been nice if we actually had Ver Flare to more so make it a little bit interesting as it is at level 70. So hopefully we see that, but if we don't, then meh, it is what it is. So with that in mind, guys, we have pretty much covered all of the jobs. I have gone through many of the jobs, pretty much all of them, in order to give my thoughts on the changes. And as far as what I will most likely be playing within actual Shadowbringers, I may find myself mostly obviously playing Dark Knight, Paladin, most certainly Gunbreaker. A good chunk of these tanks I'm most likely going to be playing. As far as the healers are concerned, the White Mage definitely interests me in terms of just like how versatile it is in terms of healing and DPS. Then I may try a little bit of Astrologian. I know I'm going to be playing all the jobs, but as far as like overall throughout the entirety of Shadowbringers, I'll most likely be playing White Mage again, picking that up. And then DPS, Dragoon, Ninja, Samurai, Dancer, Machinist, freaking Summoner, Black Mage. I'm most likely gonna be a freaking Black Mage main again. I just can't figure out what main I want to be. Is my problem right now. It's like I was a main in ARR for Black Mage, then I transitioned to Dark Knight, and then I transitioned to Samurai, and it's like I don't know whether or not if I'll transition into Gunbreaker to actually try out a new job, because I usually try out new jobs as my mains depending on how I feel about them. But now it's like, am I going to be revisiting old jobs, or will I actually try out a new job completely? We'll just have to see. But as far as that's concerned, guys, I hope you enjoyed some of my thoughts when it comes to all of the job changes. We literally only have a week left until the actual early access starts for us, and I so cannot wait. I am just feeling the hype. We are literally almost there, guys. The wait has been long and arduous, but we finally arrived. Our reward will soon be here for our patience. So with that in mind, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. You guys have a very nice day, nice night, nice morning, nice afternoon, all of that nonsense, and take care.